So not long ago I produced a video outlining the reasons as to why I personally believe that Chainlink is well positioned for a price breakout, and for those who didn't see the video, the main premises which validated my analysis were that Chainlink, having recently surpassed their previous all-time high and entered into the top 10 crypto projects by market valuation, are very well positioned to be the subject of a lot of media and news articles as well as social media posts and so on, which in turn would drive a significant amount of interest their way, and naturally a portion of this newfound interest would translate into investment, driving up the price. And at the same time, because of these very same factors, less people are going to be selling, and so the limited supply would in itself lead to further price rises. And by the way, I fully stand by all of the points in this video, but I think that it's important to tell investors that you may also have to wait a while, which isn't necessarily a bad thing, and in this video I'm going to be sharing my strategy on a long-term approach to Chainlink, so that even if the whole crypto market were to tank tomorrow, I wouldn't be worried at all. But before we get to that, if you're not yet subscribed to our channel, you're missing out on a lot of interesting content and monthly crypto giveaways for which you could be entered, and all you have to do is subscribe. So anyway, when an investor begins investing, I think that one of their primary goals should be to build a portfolio which is structured so that they can go to sleep tonight not worried about a market crash. In other words, I'm personally focused on building a long-term portfolio. A portfolio which has adequate exposure to short-term price breakouts while ensuring that the portfolio can weather anything which may come. As after all, nobody knows what's just around the corner, and so I want to be able to sleep at night knowing that I've done everything which I can to prepare my portfolio for any eventuality. And the primary way in which I go about achieving this objective is ensuring that I'm happy with the project fundamentals. Take Chainlink for example. In order to make investing into Chainlink worthwhile, I had to know that the long-term fundamentals were good and that the value proposition which Chainlink offered to the world was actually useful and of a viable nature. And the reason as to why making sure that the project fundamentals and long-term prospects are good is so important is because this is what assures me that even if the market were to crash tomorrow or next week, eventually the fundamental value of the project would prevail. And while I do think that it is fairly likely that a Chainlink breakout will occur in the near future, as an investor it's impossible that I'm going to be correct 100% of the time. Sometimes I'll make a bad call. In fact, as an investor I've made my fair share of bad calls, but I've also made more than my fair share of good calls as well, and that's what it's all about. Being right more often than being wrong. And for anybody who can't stand being wrong, investing in the crypto market or probably any financial market may not be for you. Anyway, in the case of Chainlink, the fundamental outlook is good in my view. There are probably 50 or 100 crypto projects out of the 8 or so thousand that are in my view legitimately worthwhile, and Chainlink is one of those projects. As somebody who spends a fairly large part of my time researching technology-based investments, including crypto projects as well as a number of companies, I can say that I have come across a fair number of organizations which would likely benefit from the use of smart contracts, but lack the technological capability or experience to take the plunge, and so many of these businesses go on using less efficient or more expensive alternatives on account of not having enough information or the ability to get involved with smart contracts. Now Chainlink's primary value proposition, as far as I'm concerned, is bridging the gap between organizations like this and the smart contract world. And instantly, to me, having seen the actual demand for this type of service, I believe that if the Chainlink development and marketing team and so on play their cards right, they have the potential for phenomenal long-term success. And this type of fundamental value in terms of how useful the actual product is and how much real-world demand there is and who the competition are and so on, is what gives me the confidence to hold a crypto project like Chainlink for the long term. And so in my own mind I have exposure to both short and long-term potential gain. If the market were to break out tomorrow, that's great and I may continue to hold, or I may trim back and wait for a lower entry point, depending upon the market conditions and available alternatives at the time. However, if the market instead crashes tomorrow, which is always a possibility, I'm personally reassured by my assessment that eventually the fundamental value of the product will cause the price to prevail in better market conditions. I also want to say that even though I do believe in Chainlink's long-term fundamentals, I still could be wrong, and hence I believe that diversification is very important in the crypto market. And what I have personally done is chosen a number of long-term projects which I believe in for the reason that I believe that I will be right with many or most of them, and that I can only assume that I will be wrong about some. But on a net basis, I think that I'm well positioned for the long term. Anyway, thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, be sure to subscribe for more content like this.